What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show, The Hype Mind. My name is Daniel, and this is Bear. Today, let's talk a little bit about Bear. There's a few things that a lot of people know him for. One of them is a classic car enthusiast, a great mechanic, a weightlifting compliment king. I've heard so many people compliment you about the physical shape you're in. So many other things, just general wise man, has overcome many obstacles in life, relationship wise, childhood
Yeah.
trauma, whatever, and has really stepped up to the challenge that he's had to face in his own life. Honestly, I've been inspired to watch him do that. In general, just a classic guy.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Bear. I just want to correct something before you go too far. I've only ever been complimented on my calves when it comes to working out, so just so you know. And it's usually only by guys. But, yeah.
It's true. No. Not entirely. But yeah.
No, I'm just messing. But that's funny enough, probably the number one compliment I get is a dude coming up to me and saying, "Dude, you have really nice calves. No homo." So that always cracks me up.
One of the compliments you get is your calves.
Yeah.
Anyways, tell me something profound that you've learned in your life.
Something profound that I've learned in my life. Boy, I feel like that's the end of the end of our discussion question. But it's great. Let me think about that for a minute. I feel like there's a
Maybe
lot
we'll
of
have a better
wonderful,
one.
profound things. You know, I always pride myself in the reading I've done. One of the books I read was Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I think that's pretty well known, pretty well recommended to people. I would say the only quote from his whole book that I always remember is the line where he says, "Nothing exterior of your mind can affect you if you choose not to let it." I don't think people take that seriously enough. I don't think people know what that means. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think the world knows that the way they need to know that. Even myself, I don't know that the way I could benefit me to know that. But that has been such a beautiful truth that I've been able to incorporate by trusting that that is the truth. Just very helpful to know that I can shut exterior things out that are not beneficial to me and prevent them from controlling me because they don't have to. Right? It's all in the mind. It's me. I've got it.
Right, and that you can control your mind and your own perspective.
Yep.
And the way you see things, right? When did you start reading?
Probably about 4 years ago. I don't remember why. I think that I think there was a book I wanted to read. I think someone gave me a book and I said I need to read this. I remember I was on the boat. I was working out of Boston on a boat, and we would go out on patrol for several months at a time. And there wasn't a lot of good things to do. You had to be careful, or you ended up sitting around and eating and watching TV a lot. And I did a lot of that. And so, I'd said,
Really, the lifestyle I know you live.
Yes, I just sit around,
Sitting around watching TV.
Watch TV. But I didn't do as much of it as other people did. But I wanted to improve it. I always made time to work out. But I said, I have to read
That's
this
where
book.
the calves come in.
That's where the calves come in. Yep. I said, I have to read this book. So I read a book. I don't remember why. And I said, wow, I really enjoy reading. And there was a bunch of other books I wanted to read. It was I started. I just started reading books I'd wanted to read. I read the whole Harry Potter series. I read the whole Lord of the Rings series. But then eventually the gears kind of shifted a little. I started picking up books that people had either given me or that looked beneficial to my scenario. So like I read a book on health, on dietary health. I read some other books on stuff. And so I started to get into books. I started to get into reading. And I realized I really liked it. I realized it was very beneficial. It was a lot of fun. I felt like I enjoyed reading, which is something I'd never really experienced before. I'd always been very slow to reading and writing. And it wasn't until about the late fall, winter of 2020 that I really shifted. I went through some lousy experiences, and my reading shifted from fiction and just general what would you say, dabbling in books of better well-being to really focusing on understanding psychology, understanding relationships, communication, connection, spiritual matters, stuff like that. And so that's kind of where it's taken me today, is to a lot of books on books that are much less focused around fiction.
Yeah, so that must have been some profound changes, because now you've started reading for leisure to now self-improvement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it became focused on. Yeah.
Can you share some of those experiences that brought you to those books?
Yeah. I was dating someone at the time, and I didn't understand what was going on. And so someone pointed me in the direction of some YouTube videos, and on these YouTube videos, this guy was like, you have to read my book. You have to read my book. Every time he had a YouTube video, he was like, you have to read this book if you really want to know what's going on. And so I thought, well, to save my relationship, it's worth the $33 this guy's book costs. So I picked it up and I read it. And of course, every salesman knows how to sell properly, right? And so first was get the book, and then you read the book, and he says you really need to read the book 10 to 15 times. So I did that too. And in the process, his book had books. He was like, I read this book. This is a really good book. So I got that book, and next thing you know, I had 600 books on my shelf that all might have answers that I wanted to answer. But ultimately, I bought that first book because I said, I would spend this money on improving the quality of my life and on fixing my relationship. I would take that risk, and yeah, now I have 600 books on my shelf. About 40% of them have been read.
Yeah, no, I understand that with like being in a place of uncertainty, where you don't know what's going on, especially in a relationship, you're confused, and so you want to find clarity. So when you go to find clarity, you find clarity. It's definitely it definitely feels good, puts you in a better position mentally. Uncertainty is just not a fun like state to live in.
Right.
Have you how much have you gained from reading?
Well, first I would say that pain motivates. Pain really does motivate.
Indeed.
And let me tell you, I was in a lot of pain. And again, some of that was stuff I just didn't understand I could control. I was in a place of pain because I was refusing to acknowledge that I couldn't control a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But the pain motivated me to dive deeper into reading than I ever had. And so, like you said, the uncertainty, well, the pain was a huge motivator to it. The uncertainty was a huge motivator. The pain was a huge motivator. A lot of other things. What was the question you asked?
How much did you gain from reading? Like, did you actually
tons.
see? Okay. Yeah. Well, I
I would
want to
tell
mention
anybody to
something on
read.
pain too, since you mentioned pain, because I was on a retreat not too long ago, and I had this moment where I just realized that every other man there besides me was there because of pain,
Hmm.
was there because actually a relationship, a painful relationship. And
Right.
I've already known some of these guys before, and I've already seen profound changes in their own lives. And I just realized and asked myself, I like, what if they never had that pain? You
Yeah.
you can look at a
Well,
relationship and you can think that it's bad because there's pain and heartbreak, but it's also something that can really get somebody to change.
that brings up two really important points that are worth making. The first is one of the sets of books I started reading as a result was Rollo Tomasi's work, and he said he was very humble about his work, which I respect. And he said, I'm just here to connect the dots. And that's what reading did for me in a lot of cases. It just connected the dots, not just his work, everybody's work. It put pieces of the puzzle that I didn't know in place, and it connected a lot of dots, right? There was a lot of times where I'd be reading and I'd read something, I'd be like, that's that makes sense. That makes sense. Beautiful. That's what I was looking for. The other thing is I'm a big
Just
advocate for relationships.
yeah.
Um, I've read a lot of things that I agree with that would be, that might imply that I disagree with that statement, but ultimately, I think most people do the most growth in relationships. Not that they need to be in a relationship to grow. It's just that's what ends up motivating most people is
Mm.
relationships, and that's where most people get called out, especially men. I think especially men when it comes to being a man, kind of like what David talks about in his work, David Dita. He talks about women in the world are the same thing, right? The world's always going to throw challenges, and there's no difference between the woman and the world in how you handle both scenarios as a man. And that's, I think that's very true. I think it's usually women who help men understand how to navigate the world. Um, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think it just usually ends up being that way. Um, and so, yeah, like, great. You know, if you think it's the right thing to do, get in a relationship and learn, take the hard awakening if you need it. And
Mhm.
I would say that relationship I first mentioned was absolutely miserable. It was hellish. It really was. It was absolutely hellish. But
Mhm.
I wouldn't change it at all because I wouldn't be where I am right now if I had changed any of it. I mean, it was the biggest wake up call that I needed at that time in that place.
And that's the beauty about pain, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It can be that wake up call. It's a it's a signal to the brain, to the person, that something needs to change.
Right.
That you can't stay in the same place, that you have to change.
What you're doing is not working.
That the effort to change is a better solution than staying where you are, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's a super important message. Pain can be just super good for you because it'll get you to change. Like it'll, because you'll feel like you have to change.
Right. Well, and I'm sure you've probably experienced some degree of similarity in that with your own relationships. Um, I
Mhm.
think if most people look, that's what they'll see. A lot of times it happens subconsciously, it happens behind the scenes. You don't realize it, but I think a connection on that level typically brings out your belief system, your subconscious belief system on a very deep level. And it brings out everything else with it, including your insecurities and your
Yeah,
issues
that's
and the stuff you're focusing on.
uh-huh.
And and if you're doing it right, you're able to say, wow, that's not something that's benefiting me in life or in my relationship or in general. How do we do away with that?
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's just me watching you in your own life. I feel like you've become a completely different person, completely more aware of yourself, of your surroundings, your situations, more conscious,
Transform,
honestly.
baby.
Yeah,
Transform.
transformed. That's right.
We're all just what's that bird? in Harry Potter. We're all just phoenixes. You got to just burn up and be reborn from your ashes again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, that story,
Constantly building, rebuilding yourself.
right.
And a lot of times that means completely building from the bottom up.
I remember I've learned the what the eagle does to himself from you
Yeah.
about how when his beak gets too long, his talons get too long, he he can't survive because he can't hunt anymore, and he has to go through a period of basically trimming his beak down and beating his beak up. So
Until it falls off.
yeah, so it falls out. Yeah,
Yep. Just a
which I think
bleeding,
that's a great analogy for
naked mess on a mountain.
transforming yourself in life.
Right.
Bear, tell me some of your pet peeves.
I hate being called buddy. Hate being called buddy. I think it's very, I don't know why, but I've always thought it was very
No, I
disrespectful.
understand that. No, I completely
You know,
understand.
it's like I call people buddy who are little kids,
Right.
you know. Um, that I don't like people touching music. If it's mine, if it's in the car, you don't ask. I don't like people touching stuff in general if you don't ask. I think it's simple enough to say, hey, you mind if I turn the heat down? Or you mind if I turn your music down? Or you mind if I you mind if I move this? Or you mind if I have some of your food? Hate it when
Right.
people just
It's
touch little things that they don't need to touch without asking.
right.
All you got to do is say, hey, is this okay?
Especially when it's yours.
Um, yeah, I don't like it. Um, Pet peeves. Hate people who drive. Man, hate might be the right word for that. I hate people who drive in the passing lane. Get out and get over.
I
Drive
thought you were
fast
going
or
to
move
say that
over,
in
baby.
general. I hate people that
No,
drive.
I kind of do, but that would probably be a projection. But don't drive in the passing lane if you're not passing. Not for you. It's not your space. I went to Maine one year, and there's this shop up there that I've always seen. I'd always pass by. I always wanted to go to. It's a European car shop. It's just this little, teeny like museum in the middle of nowhere on the side of this kind of main route, I guess. So I swung in there, talking to the guy. You know, he has all European cars. Most of them are all air cooled engines, right? Which every car today is water cooled. It has coolant in it. But what the Germans did with a lot of vehicles was they air cooled them like airplanes. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, but he talked about living in Europe. He talked about living, I think it was in Germany, driving on the Autobahn, right? Whatever major highway it is over there, right? It's really hard to obtain your license. It's actually something considered of to have your license is a big deal. It means that you've earned it, right? And he talks about how nobody ever drives in the passing lane, ever. And if you do it, it's to pass someone and you get over. He's like people don't take driving for granted there. They don't take their license for granted there. They don't take the highways for granted. They don't mess around.
Wow.
Like, and I was just in awe. I was like, that's amazing. Like, because, and I do this too, but we're very selfish here in America, especially on the highways. It's I can be in any lane I want, even if it's the middle of the damn highway, on my phone, driving at any speed I want to because it's me. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Get off your phone, move over. If you don't want to go the speed limit, pick another road.
You're telling them to just
That's
get
the
off
way I
the
see
highway.
it. Huh?
You're telling them to just get off the highway, pick another road.
That's right. You want to go slow, go find another road. There's lots of slow roads. There's 15-mile-an-hour roads. That's the road for you. No shame in that.
Go find that.
Don't hold up. Don't hold up traffic. People got places to be, including the guy behind me.
Right. You and the guy behind you.
And the guy behind him. Everybody's trying to get somewhere. That's why they're on the road.
Any other pet peeves? I'm sure you can
Not
find.
off the top of my mind.
Yeah, tell me,
Especially-
what are some of the philosophies you live by? simple things like you consistently do that you believe in?
Yeah, there's a lot. Have a creed, right? In other words, have beliefs, know what your beliefs are, stand by them, right? Respect the boundaries of those beliefs
What
and
are
hold
some of
yourself
yours?
to them. Um, I think it's important to make decisions. Can't waste time. There's the wrong decision is always better than no decision at all. Um, I like the idea of being flexible. Things happen. I've had a lot of situations where bad things have happened and it has thrown off whatever I'm doing in life. Um, but you know what? Shit happens. You got to be flexible. Um, you see what you can do about the circumstances, and if you can't do anything, you make a new plan and move on.
Mhm. Yeah, you
Like,
can't
kind of
sit
goes
there and be
hand in hand with
butthurt.
decision making. But there's stuff that's got to get done, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. Pick the next thing you can do and keep going. Um, I think communication is important. I think everybody says that, but I don't actually think they know what they mean when they say that. But if it needs to be said,
Yeah.
you need to say it. I
There's things that
and
people
it's
just throw
tough.
around without understanding them.
Yeah. Well, they sound good.
They do.
And I understand
True.
that in the process of throwing things around, you come to understand them more. It's like practice makes perfect, or what's the other one?
Very good point.
What's the other one? They say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Um, so there's truth and stuff like that. But like there, and it's a struggle. I can say that for myself. But you, if there's something that needs to be said, you need to say it. You need to say it to their face. You need to say it politely, but you need to say it. Because holding stuff in and letting it build doesn't resolve it. And if you say it and it doesn't do anything, well, then maybe it's better left unsaid in the long run. Um, but something comes up. Words really are um, your ability to speak, to put the truth out there, to take something and to establish. I don't even remember who said this, right? But they said there's a reason that Jesus Christ said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And he said something about words. Honestly, I'm butchering it, but he was like, "There's a reason why." What is it? The word was made. Something about how the word was made flesh, yada yada yada, right? And about how the power of speech is a lot more powerful than most people believe it is, right? And the process of taking something or think and actually putting it into words vocally out loud has power in it, and it has a lot more power than people realize, and it does a lot of good for the world if it's done properly. And I don't remember much about what they said, but I remember thinking that's very true. You need to speak out loud,
Hmm.
and that's one of the
Speaking of
beautiful things about
existence.
this country is having that right to speak. Is It's taken for granted, but it's there's a reason why that was written into the Constitution, is because the people who wrote the Constitution understood the importance of being able to speak out loud freely. So there's that, and let's see what else.
Well, what
Uh,
are some of your values
what are some of my values?
that you think
I
are
think it's
important
important
and
to
are
tell the
useful?
truth.
Okay.
That could be a really hard thing to do, but I think it's important to tell the truth.
Be honest.
I think it's Yes, to be honest. I think it's important to, like I said earlier, to speak. If it needs to be said, you need to say it. If you're not sure if it needs to be said, you probably need to say it. Even if it's to someone else, to figure out if you need to say it to the person you want to say it to. Um, yeah, tell the truth. I think you need to believe that your existence matters, that
Oh yeah.
and that you're here to do good for others. And yes, that does typically start with doing good for yourself, but believing that you're not just here. I've met a lot of people in the Western world who believe they're here for themselves. Have as much fun as I can have do everything for me.
Why won't you answer me?
We gotta pause this or cut this because I gotta take this call.
All right, cool.
Hello, Andrew speaking.
Where were we?
Oh, talking about my my beliefs. What some of them were. And yeah, we're talking about I would say speech, the importance of speech, saying what's, putting out what needs to be said from your own beliefs. What else? I believe in God. I think there's a higher power. I think it's important to believe in a higher power so that you don't put yourself first and foremost. Because that's kind of what we were talking about too, was, a lot of people focus on themselves and, oh, that's what it was, life, right? Believing that failing to believe that service to others is important, right? And a lot of people just living for themselves. So I believe that service is important to others. Service to others is important. And then again, going hand in hand with that, the belief in a higher power, the belief in God for me, because, well, I think that really helps to reaffirm that life is not just about you. Obviously, you're important, you matter, but there's more to it than that, a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that sums up a big number of them.
I think that could be a big discussion too.
Yeah,
especially that one. Anyways, last thing right here. Last question. So what do you do for your calves? I think everybody wants to know.
I start leg day with calf raises and I end leg day with calf raises, and I only do calf raises on leg day. No, I'm just kidding. My wrestling coach
and he
goes, make fun of me,
and Bear goes, and every day is like
with calf raises. Yeah. Because my wrestling coach used to work out at the same gym I went to, and so he would come in and he'd be like, "You're doing calf raises?" I'd be like, "Yeah." He'd be like, "Is it leg day today?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." He'd be like, "What else are you doing?" I'd be like, I'm starting with calf raises." He'd be like, "You can't start leg day with calf raises." I'd be like, "Yes, I can." And so every time he'd come in, he'd go, "Are you starting leg day with calf raises?" And I'd be like, "Yes, I am." So now I just do calf raises. I love my calf raises. I love working out. So fortunately, my calves appreciate the workout like no other muscle group appreciates the workout that they get. So they look beautiful and they attract the eyes of many men, apparently. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll motivate someone to do calf raises and get bigger legs. But that being said, for everybody who hates leg day, because everybody hates leg day, right? I have a solution. Right? Everybody hates leg day, so everybody skips leg day. I used to do the same thing. I now do leg day 3 days a week, more than any other workout I do in a week, except maybe abs. The solution is to go super light on leg day, and very few leg workouts on leg day. And I would say also very lightweight and keep the reps high. Like squatting, I used to do a ton of weight squatting, and I used to do even 5 reps. I wouldn't want to do 5 reps squatting because it was weighed so much. It was such a struggle to find the energy to do multiple sets of a heavy weight. So now what I do is I keep it low rep, relatively low weight, and I keep it low sets, but I do it multiple times a week. So like for my squats, I do 20 reps at a very light weight. I think I do just under 200 pounds, which is light for me. I do it only 3 times. And then I'll do a couple other workouts, but usually I won't do all my leg workouts in one day. I'll do maybe 2 or 3. Sometimes I'll only do 2. And sometimes I'll only do 1. But I'll do it multiple times a week. And it's so easy that I have no problem doing leg day, and I have no problem doing it multiple times a week. And I have phenomenal legs. You'll just have to come check them out sometime.
That's right.
I have the best legs I've ever had. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
Don't skip leg day, baby.
That's right. All right. Thanks, Bear, and thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah, thanks for hosting me today. Great to have been on my own show. This has been a good experience.
Peace.